Good morning, everyone. So, a sadhu, he comes all the way from India to visit New York City. He goes up to the hot dog vendor and he asks, "Make me one with everything." The vendor fixed a beautiful plant-based hot dog with sauerkraut and mustard and like really beautiful sauteed onions. And he hands the sadhu the hot dog. And in return, the sadhu hands the vendor a $20 bill. The vendor takes the $20 bill, puts it in his drawer, slaps it shut. "Excuse me, where is my change?" "Oh, my brother," said the vendor, "change comes from within." This is the essence of my talk today about how our ego takes us outward, where our true self takes us inward. So we'll begin with this reading from Whispers from Eternity, entitled, "Lead My Body Chariot on the Right Track." Teach me, Lord, to conquer myself by myself. Bless me that my discrimination become the charioteer of the steeds of my five senses. Firmly holding the reins of my mind, let my soul, riding on the wheels of discipline in the little chariot of my body, drive triumphantly over the speedway of earth lives until, on the last lap of the final last race, it finds itself safe. O King of Kings, in thy vast royal place, I am free of ego. We are called today to revolution, a revolution of the soul. This week is Yogananda's 100th anniversary. He took the trek from India and arrived in Boston Harbor, here to bring us, to prepare us for battle, to teach us the teachings of self-realization, to help us awaken our true self out of the desires, the worldly perspective of most people. So we are called today to this revelation, this revolution of the soul. And because we have to be the change in the world. We were born for this. We were born to come here and be that change. Change does come from within. And through that, we raise our vibration, we raise our consciousness, and it infects the world. Any viruses of fear and negativity and pain and illness dissipate through that higher vibration that we've been called to, through the essence of self-realization, that direct experience with God. We are called to fight this inner battle. It is the battle of our life. It's the battle between that voice that tells us we can't do it and that voice that knows that we can expand and gather all the great strength and courage of all the great masters and walk forward in our life and manifest our highest and greatest good. Ego transcendence is the spiritual path. That's it. Our job is to take our little ego seated at the medulla oblongata and bring it forward to the spiritual eye. That's it. And yet there's so many complexities that take us out of that simplicity of truth, that we just bring it forward into the light of our awareness, into the perception of all the great masters. Swami Kriyananda talks about our ego is the source of all our troubles. It tries to take us away from truth. Remember that ego, it's edging good out. It's edging God out. It's separating us. It's trying to disconnect us. It's trying to say, go out here and find this, and don't look inside. Don't look towards the light. Don't look towards God. The ego edging guru out, edging goodness, edging godness out of us. And yet We have the capacity, we have the ability to transcend our ego through all the great teachings that Yogananda brought 100 years ago. What does the ego do? It divides us, it separates us and them. It begins to create a gap. And ultimately, we can't even see through that gap the other person on the other side. And our true self, it closes that gap through loving, through forgiveness, through kindness. You know, we're all fighting a hard battle. There was a beautiful teacher that said, know that everyone you meet is fighting a very difficult battle. Be kind in everything that you do. Be kind to everyone you meet, because each one of us is fighting a difficult battle inward to transform our own fears, our own karma, our own ways of seeing the world, to lift them up, to see as God sees us in the truth and light. The ego is a bundle of self-definitions. We identify with, you know, I'm a man, or I'm a woman, I'm a teacher, I'm a disciple, I'm whatever it is, what we're identifying with. And yet the truth of the matter is that we are one with God. More and more, we have to surrender this false self into the truth of who we are. And the ego attaches us, right? It wants that success. It wants to look good. It wants power. You know, true power is softness, but the ego's power wants to overcome others, wants to rise above things. It wants to take control of everything. But it's so riddled with fear, this ego. No matter what it has, what power or success, it's oftentimes it comes with even more fears and of failures, fears of illness. Basically, the ego is attached to this earthly existence, and it's terrified of death. Our true self knows there is no death. That desireless desires, the desire for God, right? It takes over our life, our whole perspective. The worldly person may say, what's in this for me? But our true self says, how can I please God today? How can I serve others? How can I choose love over fear? A great warrior general who understood this inner war. The Bhagavad Gita is about that war between the true self and the ego. Bhishma, he was a general. He was a great, great warrior, but he represented ego and all the matter, material attachments. And then there was Arjuna and Krishna on the other side, fighting for life, for love, for essence, for truth. Bhishma received a great boon. He received the ability to choose his time of death or to remain human whenever he wanted to. And at the end of the Kurukshetra war, all the arrows of peace, all the arrows of kindness, all the arrows of love, all the arrows of truth were shot at him. And he was laying on a bed of all these arrows. And in that moment, he finally realized, I have to surrender. I have to surrender this ego. And that's exactly what we must do. Over and over, we recognize through the awareness we develop through our meditation practice, we realize this is not serving me, this part of me, it's time to let it go, to give it to God, not to guilt ourselves or to beat ourselves up and tell us we're not good enough. It's about, can I let this go now? It's been protecting me. It's been serving a purpose for some reason, but no longer do I need it anymore. Here you go. We offer it up to the light of God. Take this from me, Lord. How did this happen? You know, like, what's going on here? Why do we have this ego? We know we all want God, but we incarnated in this human form by this compulsion of unfulfilled desires and fears, that we have these ways of wanting things still in this world, of thinking that our happiness is in this person or this experience. It's not true. And oftentimes, the more we get disappointed, the more we realize there's only one thing that's not going to disappoint us. It's God. The spirit becomes separate and ego And the root of our separation is at the medulla oblongata. And our job is to bring it forward in this lifetime. And we do that through meeting our tests, through clearing away our karma. The return home to God, we must step by step, by step, by step, release the seeds of our karma by keep passing these tests. Swami Kriyananda, I saw when I was preparing for how do we meet our tests, and he talked about how when we start waking up, you know, we get these, we begin with the wake-up call, and this wake-up, you know, it starts, we have these aha moments, and we're like, oh my gosh, look at what's happening here. We have heightened ability to feel things and experience things. There's a huge awakening that happens for all of us, and it's pretty beautiful. Sometimes we have experiences and incredible things in our meditation. He said, but the more we stay on the path and the more we want God, the more the tests become more difficult and the more strength we can gain through each one of these difficult tests. And he really said, those of us who have, you look at, at Kriyananda's life, and he, you know, he was so beautiful and so expansive in everything he did, and yet, my God, did he face an incredible amount of tests. And what did it do? It prepared him to meet Master in the light of his transcendence. We are called today to revolution of our soul. This is the day that we reset to ask God in our hearts and our mind, show me the aspects of myself that no longer serve. Show me the parts of me that are not true, so that I can come home to you, that I can awaken to the truth of you. There was a time when I had been experiencing through school different, it was a graduate program, and we did one night a fire walk, and it was this incredible, beautiful fire. I think about all the great masters sitting around it, and they built all this, it was incredible, this big, huge fire, and then they just raked the fire, and it was about from here to maybe to the end of the building. And we had to walk around that fire, and we had to feel within us a place where fear didn't exist. We had to find something within us that told us whether or not to walk on those coals or to keep going around. And the first time I did it, I walked around and I began to walk on the coals, and I just felt this fear come up. I can't do this. And so I continued walking around, and then something happened. Something extraordinary happened where I got in touch with this place inside of me where fear doesn't exist. That place lives within each one of us. And I walked on those hot, fiery coals, and it felt like I was walking on cotton. And I walked to the end, and one of my teachers was there, and I gave her a great hug, and she said, what was that like? And I said, I understand that fear doesn't truly exist. And I had that extraordinary experience, but afterwards, what I realized happened is everything that didn't vibrate with that quality of love and fearlessness in me had to start moving out. And that's when it got difficult. That's when the tests really happened. A friend of mine had walked and really got in touch with that absolute knowing within her. But then she decided she wanted to do a second time, right? Realized that was her little ego talking. And she started walking and burned her feet and had to jump off. We have to be able to come. You know, our life is a firework. The spiritual path is a firework that keeps us. Can we stay fearless? Can we stay steady? Can we stay out of our ego into our truth? Can we steer the course to God? So how do we attain this revolution of the soul? Swami talks about becoming more inward. Remember, he talked about the consciousness of the worldly or the spiritual person. You know, he said Yogananda would walk with Rajasi. They would hold hands, and you could see love emanating from their hearts. You could see this connection. They were completely in their true self, living with beautiful open hearts as they walked. They didn't say a thing. They just were able to hold that, to hold each other's hand and hold each other in the loving consciousness of their true self. Remember, in the worldly person, what's in this for me? And we ask, what does God want? Our true nature is joy. So transcending ego means that we are willing to clear away anything that's not joy in our life. Each time I prepare for Sunday service, whatever is the topic seems to create an experience for me in my life. And I was experiencing some qualities of the ego. I was experiencing some resistance and some fears. And I sat down to meditate, and I just I just couldn't concentrate. So I began to do some connected breathing just to get myself calm and steady for meditation. And I had this experience inwardly where I just started to meet these parts of myself. I started to meet the resistor in me. And then I felt the fear part come up in me. And then I felt the sad part come up in me. And I just watched these parts, and I just felt like I just was surrendering into them. I just was seeing them and trying to just allow them and understand them. And what happened through that process is all of a sudden, it felt like the clouds parted, and I saw this beautiful bubble, and in it, this childlike, young, beautiful, innocent part of myself was there, waiting. And I realized that these parts were protecting this part until I was ready to really connect with this true part of myself, this true nature. And it was interesting. She showed up in this beautiful form and then showed me, as she moved out of form into formlessness, the essence of who she was, which is freedom. And I sat with that for quite a while, feeling that freedom that is in all of us. And this is what the ego is trying to tell us to step away from, is edging us out of. It's what, the resistance and the fear is trying to keep us from. And in that moment, feeling that part, that true essence of who I was, I understood it is the goal of why we're here. It is how we transcend the ego, is to keep finding ourselves through surrendering the parts of ourselves that are our ego, that are not on our side, that are bringing us into negativity and fear, that are taking us away from God, that are bringing us outward. We go inward and we find that waiting for us, each one of us, is our soul, is our true essence. And we are called today for this revolution of our soul, each one of us. It's a little bit funny, but afterwards I was thinking that, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs? Well, I kind of felt like that essence was like Snow White, and the Seven Dwarfs were like the ego, and there was Grumpy, the part like, no, don't do that, I don't feel like meditating, and there was Dopey, like, I don't know how to, and then there's, Happy, oh, I'm just happy all the time, that pretender. There's Sneezy, oh, I'm too sick, I can't meditate, I don't feel right. And there's Sleepy, oh, I can't stay awake. These aspects of our ego can be shown in so many different fairy tales, but they're protecting Snow White, they're protecting Snow White, but ultimately she finds her way to true love and back to love, and to waiting for her love, and to waiting to be kissed by the divine. And so lastly, I'd like to share that the question of how do we overcome this ego? And Swami Kriyananda talks so beautifully about God being the doer, that seeing that beyond every act, every experience, every person, every situation that comes into our life, God is trying to awaken us. He is evoking people in our life. He's using presence to help them to come into our life, to bring us out of these delusions, that these desires for the control and for fame, or to want things a certain way. He's all about helping us to find our way back to surrender. He's in every single experience that we have, and it's required. We need it. People who love us the most are the ones who push our buttons the most, the ones who are trying to get us to see these parts of ourselves that are dormant within us, trying to hide, but they're really trying to work at keeping us away from this essence of who we truly are. So Yogananda and Swami Kriyananda came up with these techniques for overcoming soul transcendence. And remember, it is the first duty of every soul. We are here to remember that our priority this day and every day for the rest of our life is to transcend this ego, to live as the masters did. And so the first one is, Swami Kriyananda talked about, when people praise you, don't accept the praise in your heart. Thank him, but give the credit to God. If someone doesn't give you credit for what you did, or even scolds you for something you didn't do, to gain spiritually, say nothing. Integrate the feelings, but say nothing. Hold it. Respond instead of react. Be generous. Let others speak. Add your thoughts if it really seems that people are interested. Let your actions speak for you. And there's no need to explain yourself. Let your actions live as the masters did. What would master do in this situation? Never compete and overcome the need for self-importance. Oftentimes that comes from a little place in us where we didn't feel good enough, or we didn't develop the confidence that we needed. And we try to do that. And it's okay, you know? Because we're all fighting this hard battle. We meet it with kindness. We know this is part of it. We let it go. We surrender it with love and sweetness. Never justify your actions or ideas. And whatever you have done, give it mentally to God. I do this through you and for you, Lord. Stand up for what you think is right, but try not to impose your ideas on others. I got to work on that one. Pray this way. I will reason, I will act, but guide my reason, will, and activity in everything I do. And make it a point to never feel badly when you make a mistake. Acknowledge it calmly and cheerfully. Stay on your side. And Master said, don't tell anyone your faults unless they have real spiritual wisdom, because they'll use it against you. There was a time when Master told Swami, you know, to make Sunday service to be a real channel, to be that channel for love, and to let him come through. And he took him so literally, and Swami waited for 10 minutes, and it didn't happen. No, I think it was 3 minutes, but it was a long 3 minutes. And then he realized, God is the doer, but we also have to do our part. It's 25% us, it's 25% guru. I forget that formula, and 50% God. Yeah, but in that 25%, we have to give everything we have. And so to end, as Yogananda, the Prem Avatar, would say, love is the one greatest stimulus to the will to transform ego. He said, whatever I do it with the greatest love that I have in me. The purpose of life is to find God, and under no circumstances allow yourself to become buried in the debris of moral habits and limitations and all the other humiliating experiences of delusion. Use your determination to wrench your free will, attain mastery over your body and the universe. In the development of your will lies the ability to discover the hidden image of God within you. Peace. Amen.